Hey there, everybody. This is my library assignment. So, the title to the graphic novel I chose was Thousand Year Night, Book 1. It was written by Sean Meehan, and art was made by Peter Pound. The publisher is Just a Scratch, and the page count is 129. So, I know that in class we've been talking about the differences between graphic novels and what are more considered just comic books, just kind of spliced together. This one I would consider more of an actual graphic novel. It does have like little parts in between, but that's just a transition to the next act or to the next scene. Overall, I think this one would be considered a graphic novel just because it is such a big story and so broad, and through that 129 pages, it really goes through it. So, Act 1 ends at page 33, Act 2 ends at page 87, Act 3 ends at 112, and the story just wraps up around 128. I would say it's pretty similar to what we've been dealing with in class of just like learning how graphic novels and comics books react to each other. So, the story is pretty cool, in my opinion. It's all about a man named Francisco. He was alive during the 1600s in Spain during the Black Plague, and it basically just shows he was saved by a barber who came in and infected him with vampirism. Then it goes through back and forth between like 1940s during World War II and the time, so we kind of get a back and forth of how he is in like what could be considered modern time because it's set in the 1940s, and ancient time where he was with his son. We don't really find out what happens to his son. I'm sure we'd find that out in later books. But it is pretty cool. He's found in an old church in Mexico, and the main reason why all this started happening is it's monologued that he killed somebody that he probably shouldn't have killed, and I'd say a platoon of German soldiers came and took him prisoner after a fight ensued. He did infect one of them during the course of it, and you kind of see that throughout the story, how he's just kind of transitioning, and it seems like main side effect in vampirism in this story is going bald, so I thought that was kind of funny. His overall goal, though, at least as far as I can tell throughout the story, is for him to escape his captors. He's being held by German scientists just trying to figure him out, find the difference between myth and legend. And once they figure that out, they just kind of keep asking more questions about himself, like who he really is, which he does eventually say because all he says is the truth. And he only goes along with it because he just wants to be let go sooner. And throughout you can kind of tell he sees that if they have their way, he'll never be let out. At the very end of it, we see him choke out and threaten and nearly kill the lead scientist and say that he's no longer taking answers and to basically just be left alone. Then it goes to the German soldier that was infected, and he's completely bald and he's just reading something in the dark because he can't stand the light like Francisco. I would say the goal is shown pretty well in Act 2 and Act 3 because just the way he progresses through the story of not exactly polite, because who can be polite to the Nazis, but he just kind of goes along with their questions and he's very curt, but he starts getting more and more irritated, and he can see that the lead scientist is just plain evil, and that's why he just starts to kind of snap at him and lose his control and sends them away. So you do see arcs through the transitions of like 1600s Spain to 1940s Germany, and it hops back and forth, and it's really clear to see when you are in which time period because it has it in big bold font. My only complaint is I feel like it jumps back and forth a little too often because Like once you're just starting to get into one side, it hops back to a different time. So it's just a little jarring, but the transition is easy enough to see when it is. From what I can see though, no character really has a character arc, because the most you consider a character arc would be Francisco, and that would just be from the time that he's a normal human, slowly turning into a vampire and spending time with his son, starting to feel sicker because he's not drinking blood. Besides that, he's just kind of stone-faced. We learn a little bit of like how he just kind of hates being alive, even though he doesn't really feel about changing anything. He admits that he misses his wife and his kids, and he'd do anything he could to have them again, but he knows in his heart of hearts that he will never love again. But that is about it as a story arc for him. He's still the same kind of vampire. And the Nazi scientists, they do not have any good kind of arc whatsoever either. I do feel like it follows McCloud's idea of transition at least once for every single one throughout the entire graphic novel. Some more than others. I can't really say off the top of my head, but it does. Each one does show up at least quite a few times. I did not see any instance of the mini comic idea though. I felt the directional flow was pretty well done. It wasn't exactly in the Z formation like that we've been learning, but it is very easy to tell like who's talking and just like be able to follow the flow as a reader. So it was pretty nice and smooth to get through. I would highly recommend this to all of you. I know of a few of you in the class like some of the same kind of stuff that I do. And I feel like if you like a mix of action and like a little bit of just, well, not really espionage, but just being able to see like how a story is put together and seeing like this new version of how vampires are in this mythos is pretty cool. I love the art. It's all black and white, but in some instances it's kind of blurry, but others, like when it's super focused, and the way it does close-ups on the faces are really detailed and really eerie at the same time, especially with the Nazi scientist. I would recommend this to all my friends as well. I kind of want to go get my wife to read it. No promises there. And a fun fact is I was pretty proud of myself that I was able to read most, if not all, of the German throughout the graphic novel. It was pretty cool to be able to read what they were saying. Alright, well, I hope you all enjoy this, and I hope you all check it out. Thank you.